Sorry,
What the heck happened?
but I was watching. I
Oh,
just saw it afterwards. Yeah, I was watching.
hey, Shirley. And don't call me Shirley.
You can call me Shirley.
Where are you located, Shirley?
In Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
What a great area.
Yeah, growing.
Oh my gosh, exploding may be a better word. If you look on your name, I know sometimes it defaults to a Sherry bar a Quinto. And if you'll go ahead and change your name, you can actually put your city in too. That might generate some referrals. Like,
Oh, okay.
Sherry, that's great.
Let me see. I should put Murfreesboro on there.
It may not have enough letters.
Yeah. Let me see how to do that.
Matt is on. Wait a minute. It's not 9:30, Matt.
It's certainly not. No, I've had a bit of a crazy week and a half. This past week and a half. So today, the lion's share of my time blocking has been devoted to cleaning up my follow-up. So I have the luxury of being here.
Well, I'll tell you what, treat. Normally you're not here on the Fridays. Your schedule doesn't allow. So guys, we have Tom Brady with us.
Oh, you're very gracious. Maybe Tom's ugly stepbrother, that's not so talented.
Let's see here, Don, where are you? Don, you need to change your name, buddy.
I know I'm trying to do that and it's not allowing me to, but I kind of like the name Sherry for today.
I would change it for you, but I don't know which one you are.
I'll work on it.
Yeah, I want to make you a co-host.
Normally I can click on, but it seems the icon is covered up to do that.
All right.
I got it.
All right. People are coming on now. Let's see. Allow recording. That's the fake people coming on now. All right. So where are you? You're not Sherry. You're still Sherry.
I know I'm working on it.
Robin with a BYN.
Danny, if it's possible, I had a quick question for Matt. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you can. Matt, like I do a lot of calls, but I'm thinking like, would you advise to change the phone numbers? Because I'm not sure if it's the phone number. I just started to get lower pickups than usual.
Yeah, if you don't have a service that is ensuring that you get whitelisted, then after you make a series of 25 phone calls, your phone number, if that number may be off, but I think it's around 25 to 50 phone calls, somewhere in there, your number gets downgraded and potentially marked as spam.
So let's kick it off. Let's kick it off now. It's 1 o'clock, you guys, and we can continue the conversation. Might be beneficial to other people. Hey, welcome everybody. Don, you are now co-host. If you kind of watch the people coming in, that'd be great. I'm Denny Grimes, and it is basically Denny Grimes Mastery of Real Estate, and this is my mastery level role play issue. I see a lot of familiar faces. If you're on for the first time, why don't you say hello in the chat so I know I won't necessarily call on you. Today is a very important day because actually tomorrow is the 17th of August, and unless your birthday was August 17th, it has another special meaning. So we are going to talk about NER changes, what you're seeing, and maybe some ideas on how you can move forward. I know there's still a lot of unknowns. It is actually August 16th, and we practice what's called question-based listening enhanced conversation. So we always come with questions, and we don't tell, we ask. So if you are watching by video or recording on YouTube, if you want to join us live, there's a QR code. And all you have to remember is go to the URL, dennysmastery.com, and everything is posted on YouTube. So the thought of the day, we did have Recon. Recon, by the way, for the new people here, a lot of people are on Recon. That is a daily role play that's open to everybody. You don't have to be a KW, just like this one. It's open to anybody, even your little fake little AI people that take notes. They can be on here as well. And we spent a lot of time today having discussions around compensation. Now, I just left Mega Camp, which is a big event for Keller Williams. Every year they had 8,000 agents there. And I'm part of Gary Keller's. He's got a kind of a group of top 100 now. That's about 400 now. And he was talking to us, and he talked from the general stage. It's a term that is going by the what is it called? The Goonie bird, or the dodo bird, right? Is one, we don't use scripts anymore in Keller Williams. We use conversations. And the other word that's going to be probably erased is commission. We're starting to replace it, and I don't know if it's driven by legal or maybe it's just good practice. You know, professional fee, compensation. I've got, you know, Don Aldridge is here as a co-host, and also we have, and I was making fun of him, Matthew Sharp. He's Sarasota. He is a Tom Brady of conversations. And what do you think of the idea, Matt, that we don't use the word commission anymore?
I haven't used commission, and actually I sometimes, like, maybe it's unintentional. I correct clients. I've called it a brokerage fee. Always and forever. I know that you've mentioned professional fee or what have you, but I just call it a brokerage fee. And the reason I do it, and I'll keep this one short, is because it gets it off of me. Commission is a very personal term. It's like my commission is, whereas brokerage fee is, this is the fee my brokerage charges for my services.
Yeah, that's good. Good mindset. Okay, so let's go around the thought of the day. I don't know if Jenica is on. I haven't seen her pop up. We have a form, and we may have a role play today if you want to have a role play with a seller and pricing. And there's 3 outcomes. Raise your hand if you've heard of the 3 outcomes. And what I'm attempting to do, and Jenica came up with the idea, is I like to make things simple for buyers and sellers. So if you'd like to role play, you get to pick it out. This is Friday's Mastery. What we're going to do is give you, if it's going to be an outbound call, we'll give you a minute and a half. If it's going to be at the table, we're going to give you 2 minutes, and we're going to kind of dissect it a little bit. And I'll do maybe some teaching on some things that I believe to be true. So hands up. Shirley, you were on first, and I was kidding with her. Airplane, what's the famous line out of Airplane? My name's not Shirley, or something like that, right?
Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, don't call me.
Don't call me Shirley.
Yes,
would you like to have a role play? I don't know that I've recognized you on this before, but would you like to play?
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to try.
I'll tell you what, I'll let you kind of get ready for that. I'm going to go to Brad. And Brad, okay. We were working with you today. You are going to be at the table, and you are going to be dealing with Don Aldridge, who is a seller. And he is going to give you an NAR objection, whatever you want. Fair enough, Brad?
Fair enough.
Now,
all right.
One of the things we worked on today, earlier today, you remember what I reminded you of? It's right behind me, you guys. If you have, go ahead and put me on, like pin me or whatever, because I want you to see the screen. There is a model to follow. And it's always easier if you have a roadmap. If you're old enough, you know, before GPS, I used to go to AAA and get a triptych. Does anybody remember a triptych?
Yes.
So Shirley, you can observe a couple of these and get ready to pop in here. And Janet, would you mind sharing your fried rice with us? That'd be great. All right. So Brad, you are at the table. Don, you are the seller, and we always start. So Don, are you ready to move forward with me today?
Yeah, I just not sure about this whole, what you guys call commission deal.
I understand. Other than that, is there any reason you wouldn't want to move forward?
No, I need to get my house sold, but I don't understand. I guess I don't have to pay a buyer agent now. Is that right?
Well, nothing's really changed. It's just we're just making things more clear to the buyer and seller. The buyer is the one that brings the money to the table. So actually, the seller is not paying any kind of
Hey,
a fee,
Brad,
so to say. Yes.
great job on the model. Acknowledge, isolate. And I'm going to coach you here a little bit.
Mhm.
So what did Don say? He said, I don't understand. I don't have to pay the commission again. Everybody we talk to, and this is for everyone, has a picture in their mind, has a starting point of a level of understanding. I believe it's always, and part of the model is isolate and clarify. Before we start applying medicine somewhere, what would be a good isolating question or clarifying question? Maybe start with, well, tell me what you've heard or what you understand is going on. Does that make sense, Brad?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
it does.
Okay, so start with that question.
All right. So Don, yes, tell me what you understand and what you've heard about what's going on.
Well, I understand that commissions are negotiable and you've already negotiated with me. I understand I've got to pay you and I'm fine to pay you 3%. I just have heard I don't have to pay I don't have to pay that other agent anymore, right?
Yeah, if that's an issue, we'll discuss that. But as far as getting your house listed, we're okay with the 3% that we talked about.
Right.
Correct? Very
Yes.
good. Great. All right, well, we'll get moved forward on that. And then we'll go ahead and address your concerns about the buyer's commission. The buyer is the one that brings the money to the table. you
Okay,
know.
now hang on. I'm coaching again because you're
Yep.
one of our advanced people. You're getting better on us all the time. So I won't, Shirley, on your first one, I won't get too hard on you, but Brad has been around and he's in the mastery class. So remember what we talked about earlier today. If you're going to solve all these problems and they're not going to do business with you anyway, what have you gained? So how could you use the situation and ask a trial closing question? This is a review from this morning.
All
And
right,
that's-
so let's go this route, Don. So if you're okay with the commission, the fee you and I have discussed, let's go ahead and get the house on the market. And then as buyers come along, we'll address the issue. We'll see what they offer and we'll see if it fits. If it fits, that's great. Otherwise, we'll see what we can do to make it work out.
Well, try
All
this.
right.
Hang on. That's a lot of words. Try this. So, all right. So understand that you have no questions on my fee. So if we can come together on an agreement on what we're going to offer a buyer agent compensation, are you ready to move forward with me? That's what I'm looking for. Right.
All right.
And so what would you say, Don?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Now, if they say yes, then generally speaking, you can't always rely on this. That means they've made the commitment with you. And for me, this is my style. Matt, I'll go to you, to your style. I would say, great, knuckle bump. I love knuckle bumps because it's kind of like a handshake. We did that since COVID. So now that we've agreed to work together, do you mind if I share with you the strategies of compensation? Now, listen, I haven't mastered all this yet. These are lines that I'm practicing on you.
Mhm.
However, what happened here, guys, rather than going into a dissertation about whys and wheres and the way that it used to be and who's offering what, get the commitment. I think maybe going back to my high school days, if you've got the pretty girl in class willing to go out for a milkshake, take her out, stop talking. So that's what I would do. I would close and then handle it. Now, there's a lot of ways to handle it. I'll get into that in a minute. Matt, add some color to that, please.
Yeah, why sell with blah, blah, blah when you can sell with blah, was what, my father-in-law always said. Keep it simple, stupid. So in that situation, how I would have addressed it is he's saying he doesn't have to, not understanding the buyer's agent's commission or doesn't have to pay it anymore. Say, hey, what specifically do you understand about it? And then, because you don't want to tread on their intelligence. And if you just go into a dissertation, as Brad was starting to do,
Right.
you're treading on their intelligence. In other words, they're like, this guy thinks I'm an idiot. Well, he doesn't want to do business with you now for sure. So, hey, well, Dawn, enlighten me as to what specifically it is you do understand about what happened. Okay, and then we don't have to pay the commission. Okay, great. And then you close right there. Okay, well, so let a commission aside, buyer's agent commission aside, everything else that we've gone over tonight, does it make sense? And most importantly, do you feel that I am the right agent to help you sell your home?
Yeah.
There you go.
Great. Sign here, press hard. Now, what do we need to, what specifically, or can I enlighten you? I like to, hey, would you mind if I enlighten you as to what actually took place?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then I go into the explanation. Well, and I won't go into it now, but really, and this is for everybody, only two things. This, I'm off script, but this is kind of my script. This lawsuit accomplished two things. That's it. It only did two things nationwide. Two things. Number one, I can't wave a red flag in the MLS anymore telling an agent what I'm going to pay them. Okay. But most sellers will still pay a brokerage fee. The second thing this accomplished, it turned the real estate industry from the wild, wild west to a professional industry. Moving forward, agents must sign a contract with buyers just like they do with sellers, disclose the representation and what they charge. No longer are we pop-tart agents where we get a phone call on a Sunday at 10 and we meet you at Sunday at 10:01 to show a property. This is a professional industry from now on, which would you agree are good things? Yes. Great. What other questions can I answer for you?
So what he just went into those two things, you guys, is
like that.
he gave you that for your consumption. Don't
Right.
write that down and talk to the client about those two things because that's not important.
Right.
However, we can take a second here, and this is where you can add some input. I like the fact, I mean, I generally have threes, but two is good, or one is great. If you had to summarize what the new decision has done, and you're having a conversation because I've heard I don't have to pay commission anymore. Listen, if there was this big lawsuit that the government was saying they lost a lawsuit, and the government no longer can charge us tax. We no longer have to pay tax. How many of us would have a basic understanding? And when it came to April 15th, I don't want to pay tax, right? That's all that's taking place. So one of the things that would be helpful for all of us is to have a very simple explanation. For example, and I'll throw one out. If you have one, you throw one out, is this. Basically, what's happened, let me share what one person said to me, and then you can like it or not. I didn't come up with it. Basically, the money in the transaction will be relatively the same. How it's paid will be different. That's what somebody else said.
Yes.
Here's another one. What the lawsuit basically has done has made the transaction more transparent for both buyers and sellers. And that's a good thing, isn't it? Anybody else have something you want to throw out there? Because if you can't say it in a sentence, they're not going to follow you. So anybody have another explanation of what NAR did?
Yep. I agree with you full-heartedly, Denny. It's really, most importantly, what transpired is, yes, the money is going to be relatively the same. It's just going to fall on different sides of the closing statement. That's really it. And that's where it goes back to what I've said before. It's just smoke and mirrors. Nothing's possible without the buyer's money. The buyer has always paid 100% of the commission or the brokerage fee. They just put it on the seller side of the closing statement. Moving forward, the buyer and the seller are going to have brokerage fees on their respective sides.
Okay. Anybody else hear something they like that you use?
That's good.
I like what you just said. It's very simple and clear.
Well, when we can articulate what it means in a sentence, a short sentence, like maybe a Dr. Seuss cat in a hat sentence, the more confident we're going to be in a more.
Question. I'm
the
not
more
sure.
impact we're gonna have, yes. Okay, all right. Nice job, let's move forward. I'm gonna get into let's go on into, if it's okay. And I've got Janet, her hand is up, and Jenny. So Janet, what would you like to do? You're muted. Oh, you got it, you're good.
Anything, whatever. Throw it at me.
Okay. I don't know why my name is Sherry on here.
Hey, don't worry about it, we know who you are.
Okay. Yeah, I know. No kidding. Okay. We know who you are too, Denny. All right.
What are we doing?
So, more of the same. I like this.
All right, so.
Hey, Janet, do you want to do the Jen Davis breakdown? What you gave to me in the Mastery Lounge? That was pretty good.
Thank you for the suggestion, Don. Yeah, I like that.
So Don, evidently you've heard it. So Jenny, you're gonna be on deck. So Don, you are the seller. Go ahead, Janet. 2 minutes.
Mhm.
So, Don, is there any other questions you have before we go into how I'm paid?
No,
Okay. So,
my question is on, I guess I don't have to pay the buyer agent. The buyer has to pay the buyer agent now. Is that what I heard?
are you the seller?
I thought I was the seller. Is that not right? I can be the buyer. Let's retake. I'm the buyer. Start again. Sorry.
Yeah, I was looking at it from the buyer's perspective. Okay, so Don, do you have any other questions for me other than what we just discussed? Before I sit down and we talk about how I get paid.
Yeah, I'm just a little queasy. I really don't have any extra money to pay you. Can't we get the seller to pay it like they always did?
Well, we'll go through this. How about, let me lay it out.
Okay.
Okay. One, the seller pays all the commission. And that's, when we make the call and make sure they pay in compensation. So number two, the seller pays part of it and you will pay the rest. Like say they'll only pay 2.5% and you'll pay 0.5%. Or number three, you pay the entire commission. But let me explain something else. Nothing has really changed. You will always know before we move forward whether you want to look at this house based on what is available in terms of how the compensation is being paid, or we can always put it in the contract and test the water and see if the seller is willing to pay compensation.
Oh, so what you're telling me is if you call the seller, I'm just summing it up. You call the seller and they say, no, we're not going to pay you. And I can't pay you because I don't have the funds. You can still put it in the contract?
Yes, but I'll tell you what, we
Okay.
can always look at the house. You want to look at the house, you're always welcome to look at the house.
Time.
Again, okay. Thank you, Denny.
You're welcome, Janet.
Good
All
job.
right. So, all right, there's one. Let's go again. Jenny, you're up.
Yes, can I try that one?
You want the same type of thing?
Yeah, with the buyer.
And I'm tempted, just 1 second, you guys, there's somebody with some background noise. Not talking. Just make sure you-
Janet, need to mute yourself when you can.
Who is it?
Here's Janet. She got it now.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, so Jenny, you are at the table with Barnabas.
With who?
Barnabas.
Barnabas.
All right,
Okay. And you're the buyer, correct?
yeah.
All right, Barnabas. So after we've gone through everything, how confident you feel in hiring me to be your agent?
Well, since we're talking about this commission, I'm still uncertain. I'm not really confident with anything because I'm afraid that they're not going to pay and I'm going to have to come out of pocket on some of this.
Certainly, and I totally understand your concerns. So my brokerage fee is 3%. And
Okay.
the goal is always, my goal as your agent is always to have the other side to negotiate my pay.
Hey, Jenny,
However, yes.
that's okay. You're doing great. However, I'm gonna go back a minute. Please, what is his concern?
That he cannot afford if they're not gonna pay.
That's what you heard. What did he say?
That's exactly what he said, that he doesn't want to pay me.
No. He said, I don't want to. Anybody remember what he said?
Pay
Yeah,
money up front.
I no, I don't want to come out of pocket.
Yep.
Now, again, this is question-based, listing enhanced. There is a clue. So I would, and again, we talk about a conversation until we look for like an off ramp to go ahead and maybe dig a little bit. So
What do you mean by coming out of pocket?
Barnabas, so what you're saying, well, I could ask the question, are you saying then that if you don't come out of pocket, you're comfortable moving forward? That's a question, Barnabas.
Okay. Well, maybe it would really depend. If the seller is paying it all, obviously, but if I'm still paying for part of it, what would that look like?
So what I'm hearing you saying, basically, as long as the seller covers the cost, you're comfortable hiring me as your agent. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, if that happens, but if they don't pay, how are we going to handle that?
Well, absolutely. So if that time comes, and like I said, the goal is always to have that happen. But when that time comes, you and I will sit down and have this conversation. Would that be
Okay.
fair?
Well, before I sign anything, making it so you're my dedicated agent and we have that contract, I'd like to know what would happen in that scenario.
So hang on to that
maybe
question.
if
I'm going to get compliance with you right now. And again, I'm not expert on this. My wife's a lot more expert because she owns market centers. I'm not a compliance expert on this. Here's the deal. From my understanding, you're going to have an agreement in writing with a buyer of what you're going to get, the maximum amount you're going to get paid.
Right.
Now, again, if and there may be a box or a percentage if we've and something that says, and again, if you guys know, and I know every state can be different, but I have not seen the Florida forms yet. So I guess here's my point. I think there's on a form if there's no compensation from a seller. I think I heard, now you correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, that hey, Barnabas, don't worry. If the most you're going to be obligated to is $3. I'm not saying percentages, $3. However, winky, if the seller's only offering $2, I'm good with that. So Matt, talk to me about your understanding on compliance, but we have to be clear on the agreement we sign with them.
Right. I've already I've gone over the agreements, and I've actually already had to use a few. So on the buyer brokerage agreement, this is for Florida, guys. Each state's independent in and of itself. But in Florida, it's a very similar buyer brokerage agreement that we've always used. It's going to disclose whether you're single agency, transactional, consent transactional, or no brokerage representation. One of those three. The brokerage fee, it's going to say that your fee is X amount of dollars. So you charge X, and in the event that the seller offers 1%, and you can only negotiate 1% from the seller, the buyer would be susceptible to paying the 2% remaining, or whatever the charge is. You charge 5%, you get 2% from the seller, buyer gets 3%. It dictates the maximum. So let's say that the seller is offering 4% and you are only charging 2%. That 2% goes back to the seller. That 2% excess.
So on this scenario, I'm going to go back to Jenny and Barnabas. Now, again, he doesn't want to pay any. And so how would that agreement be filled out?
So I guess my question is, so why can't I sign it at the maximum to see if I can get that, or at least, and then if not, I can always renegotiate with the buyer if, so they don't come out anything out of pocket.
Hang on, Matt. I understand the question, but you're asking him to sign something and you're going winky, And there's a lot of buyers that won't feel comfortable. Matt,
And at least in Florida, guys, I love this. The buyer brokerage form is, like I said, real estate's now a professional industry. This isn't like this is not going to be a sea of part-timers anymore. So the buyer brokerage agreement is now very much like a listing agreement where it has additional terms. So you can write into the additional terms that, and this isn't like winky winky, like give me a high fiver on the back. This is Barnabas. How would you feel if I can negotiate my brokerage fee into the purchase price of the property, so you get a property at price that makes sense to you and don't have to cover anything else? And then
hang on. Let people catch up. That is a great question. From a role play standpoint, that's a great question. And repeat it one more time, Matt.
Barnabas, how would you feel if I can negotiate my fee into the purchase price of the property? Meaning you get a property at a price that you're comfortable paying, and we don't even have to have a conversation about what my brokerage fee is. It's included in there.
That would depend on how much it would increase my monthly payment, but I suppose we could look at that.
Well, if it doesn't touch your payment, it's a payment that you're happy with. So you've described the payment you're looking for is X. So it's a payment that you're happy with, a price that you're happy with, and I get to put new shoes on my kids. Is there anything else you would object to?
No, you just got to give your kids lunch instead of new shoes. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah.
All right. So I can keep my kids fed. Awesome. Sign here, press hard. Now, if he said that, well, no, if they're offering X, I want you to get X or anything along those lines. I'm not going to go into the details of the specifics because you're going to run into 1,000 of them. In the additional terms, you could write, so your fee's 3, 4, 5, 6%, whatever it is, you write that into the buyer brokerage. In the additional terms, you'd say, in the event of X, I agree that my commission will be whatever's offered if we can't negotiate from the seller. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So you write in the additional terms.
So if they were offering 1.5% or 1%, let's say, you would accept it, or you would build it into the loan or whatever you're talking about before, so they still get their monthly payments and you still get your percentage. Or
well, no, we're not talking about building anything into the loan right now. What we're saying is, like, we'll keep it really simple. I'm telling you my fee is 4% for my buyer's agent services, my services to you as your representative as a buyer. My fee is 4%. But in the event that we find a property that you love and checks all your boxes and the seller's only offering 1%, and we fail to negotiate it into that contract, I'm not going to allow my brokerage fee to come between you and the home of your dreams. So in that circumstance, and only that circumstance, my fee will be whatever the seller's offering. Is that fair?
Now, time out.
handshake.
Time out. What if they're offering 0?
Then we have what, and in that case, you would have to have that conversation again. Hey, and so I used to do this, 15 years ago, with my buyer loyalty agreements, because back then they didn't have the required disclosures. I just had my own buyer loyalty agreement. I still use it to this day in most cases. But I say, hey, Barnabas, in the event we come across a property where they're not offering anything, do I have your permission to explain that to you? And at that time, at that time, you've typically built rapport with the client. You've worked hard with the client for the client. And I'll go to Barnabas and I'll say, hey, this owner isn't offering any compensation at all. 0. What do you want to do?
So let me ask a question here, and I'm not going to spend the rest 30 minutes getting into the law. We're going to get back into conversations because I'm going to share something I've developed, the 4 outcomes, the 4 things that will happen if a seller does not want, if a seller offers low to no compensation. I've got 4 outcomes for them. But here's my question. Couple different things. As of tomorrow in our MLS, the offer of cooperation, you don't even know what people are offering anymore. And because MLS said something yesterday or today, doesn't mean it's going to be honored tomorrow. And I've understand now people are now calling, or probably calling my listing agents as well. What are you offering? If you get a text back from the listing agent of what they're offering, that is not prima facie evidence that obligates them for that fee, in my opinion, because we no longer have the offer of cooperation through MLS, meaning your fee can change in the negotiation. So what people are doing, they're doing a broker to broker agreement with the contract, sometimes ahead of the contract. Is anybody's brokerage doing that?
Yes.
What
My
I
listing,
do.
Denny, my listing agreements right now, I've explained, it's been grateful, it's been a pretty full week, but every listing agreement I've signed in the past 2 weeks since Transaction Desk acquired the forms has been the new listing agreement. Now, in my case, the seller authorizes me to split the brokerage fee with the buyer's agent. There's that box that we check. So the seller can agree to pay. There's a box that the seller can agree to pay. Then there's a box that the listing agent agrees to split, or there's a box for nothing. In my case, my clients agree to allow me to split the brokerage fee with Denny as a buyer's agent.
Mhm.
And then in addition to that, so that's your listing agreement. In addition to that, you would have a broker to broker, so listing agent to buyer's agent form.
So you guys,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
So you're pretty much still negotiating both at the listing appointment.
Well, I'm just negotiating what I charge.
Right.
So, but I'm saying, like, if you're saying you're putting both of the commission, you're checking that box, so you're pretty much negotiating, say, 6%. Or you just make it very simple to where, like, listen, this is what I charge, and let's see what kind of offers we get, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so when I go into a listing appointment, I'm just treating it like we always have, because what you focus on expands, and really nothing has changed, and technically speaking. So the brokerage fee is X, and then I'm just checking that box that I agree, because it's the way that I look at it. I could be wrong. This is just me. It's my brokerage fee. It's what my brokerage charges for my services. If I want to split that with Denny, seller shouldn't care. So now if the seller wants to, because it's just smoke and mirrors. Again, we're getting caught in semantics. You know, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I agree that I'm going to split the brokerage fee with the buyer's agent so that they're incentivized to find buyers for property.
So Matt, let's go into conversation about that. I think it might be helpful. So let's do this a minute. So so Jenny and so Barnabas, let's go ahead and you want to deal with a buyer or seller?
Oh wow, yeah. I'll go ahead and deal with a buyer.
All right, Matt, you're the buyer.
Okay.
You're at the table. You're going to give you a minute 45.
Okay, so Matt, hey, now that we've gone over what I can do for you to help you buy a home, if we can come to an agreement, I'm sorry. Now that we've gone over this, Matt, are you willing to move forward?
As long as the seller, or as long as I don't have to pay for your fee.
Okay, great. So if we can come to an agreement on the compensation, then we can move forward. Okay. Oh shoot. Buyer. Oh geez, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
One, I thought that the buyer always pays the fees.
Yeah,
So,
well,
what are we lost somewhere, Barnabas? What's going on?
yeah, I was trying to read over my notes that I took from earlier, so I just kind of lost myself. I apologize.
Okay, get your notes together. Tanner.
Yeah.
You're at the table and you got we're starting right there with Matt. He's the buyer. He does not want to pay your fee.
Okay. All right, Matt. Other than the fee, is there anything else that concerns you to move forward with me today?
No, I think you're great. I just don't want to have to pay your fee. I mean, I got to remodel the house when I move in.
I hear you, Matt. So let me ask you, like, typically we get paid 3 ways, Matt. You know, can I explain that to you quickly?
Sure, please.
So if I find you the right home and we negotiate it, you know, we negotiate the price and terms and everything with the seller in the transaction, typically we get offered compensation from the seller, which you don't have to pay anything, or we may have to negotiate our fee into the purchasing price, or we don't get paid. Now, would you? I don't know, Danny. I just got confused because I had something completely different in mind.
All right, no problem. So let me see if I can pick this up a little bit
Can I jump in, Denny? Can I try something?
in a second. The point is, you guys remember that we're struggling with this because it's new. Do you think it's new to them? Our level of understanding is 10 times what theirs is. So if you talk more than a Dr. Seuss sentence, you're gonna lose them. Now you said 3 things, and so there was no dialogue. So Don, I'm gonna give you a minute. Go.
Okay, so Matt, if we come to an agreement on how that we can get you the house and it doesn't cost, you're not paying any fees, we're ready to move forward, correct?
Right, well, as long as I don't have to pay your fee, then I'm fine.
Got it. Okay. Well, obviously the seller with the right offer can still pay me. They can still pay me the fee. Number 2, they might say, you know what,
Wait a
we're
minute,
only
you're
going to pay
doing
you
the same-
this.
Hang on,
And they
you're
might
doing,
expect you
Don.
to pay.
you're doing the same thing. Slow down.
Okay. Got it.
So ask them one at a time. If you're going to go down that road, get some commitment or understanding, approval before you
Okay.
go 1, 2, 3.
Awesome. Thank you for the reminder. So Matt, I'll confirm with the seller if they're paying my fee right up front. So we're going to know. Is that okay?
Sure,
All right. They may say, yes, we're going to pay you X, and I'm satisfied with that. So therefore you don't have to pay anything. You got that one, correct?
okay. Yeah,
Another option the seller has is they may say, we're going to pay you X and a half, at which time they may expect you to pick up the rest. That's an option. You could either say yes or no. Do you understand that option?
yeah,
Okay. And then the third one is they may say, we're not going to pay you anything, Aldrich. You're going to have to get your buyer to pay you. At which time, Matt, I'm not going to stand in your way. We can still place it in the contract and ask them to pay my fee so you don't have to. Are you okay with those 3 options?
sure, yeah, so it's like, it's essentially, I'm not committed, we're not committed to anything right now, is that right?
That's right. And if they come back and still say, nope, we want the buyer to pay the fee and you're uncomfortable with it, we say, see you later. Thank you.
Okay.
You all right with that?
Well, what if, I mean, what if that's my dream home? Like, what do we do then?
Now watch this.
Okay.
Hang on. Have you ever had a discussion? Have you ever heard of anyone that's had a discussion or known someone that might have known someone that had a discussion that they were negotiating on their dream home and did not come together on price?
Never.
Not if it's a dream home.
It is the same negotiation. The seller's looking for a certain net. So it's either on the asking price or the avocado green refrigerator in the garage or compensation.
Mhm.
So,
That's why I said that.
pardon me?
I said, that's why I said that, Denny, because I wanted to throw the wrench in, but it's really not a wrench.
So allow me to take a swab, and that was good, Don. There was 3 things. You took one at a time. Let me ask you something, Matt. Have you ever purchased a home before?
One other time.
And do you remember, was it a home that was listed on by somebody else and you bought it? There was a realtors involved.
Yeah. I would not use a realtor.
Okay. And when you bought that home, did you take the money? You paid a price, agreed on a contract price, right? And you took the money to the seller, right?
Right.
And what did the seller do with that money? Did the seller pay the realtor fees?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess they did.
And where did they get the money to pay the fee?
From me.
So really, who paid the fee?
So,
Well, I never looked at it that way, but I guess it was me.
So if we can recreate the same experience, is that acceptable to you?
Well, I guess there's no other way, or I'm just not buying a house, right? I mean, if I'm paying it and I want to buy a house, then I have to bring the money. So yeah.
Right. And you know what? Here's the issue, Matt. You'll never lose a house because of the fee, because of the professional, and you use brokerage, the brokerage fee. You'll never lose a house, your dream house, because of the fee. Does that give you some peace of mind? Now, why can I say that?
Because there are other terms and conditions of a contract. It's never one thing. And that might not make sense on a macro level, but it's the fee's seemingly insignificant. There are corners of a contract.
If a contract does not come together, and I said this, they filmed me at Mega Camp, and I gave them this example. I think it's a good one. I mean, it came up top of my head. Listen, negotiating numbers is easy because it's logical. There's some emotion to it. Negotiate an avocado green refrigerator that they don't want to give up because their granddad gave it to them. That's difficult.
Right. This is numbers on a paper. This is binary.
That's right. And so if the seller does not get the right number, it's not the fee.
Right. Had nothing to do with that
problem. It's the price problem.
mhm.
Now, let's just hover here a minute and soak that in and tell me what you're hearing, because let's get the fee out of it. It's the bottom line to the seller.
Right. And please know, I am not rubbing my own back or patting my own belly here. So please don't hear that when I say this. My ability to understand that I was taught this lesson at a table almost 20 years ago, that it's not what you focus on truly does expand.
Mhm.
And it's remove the fee. I've never ever focused he always, my mentor always said, never get into a conversation about commission with your client. And I know because of what's going on right now, that's difficult to accept for everybody in this room. But I've carried that with me my entire career, and I just don't have commission conversations with my client. I have conversation about numbers, as Denny's talking about.
The other thing is, if you've been in real estate for any length of time, have you ever had to negotiate closing costs or what's the word I'm looking for?
Seller concession.
Concessions, because the buyer doesn't have the down payment, it doesn't have the money for points. Yet, and we have no problem going in and negotiating that for the buyer. What we're having to do now is maybe negotiate that for who? Us.
For us. Yep.
It's
and
all a net issue.
right.
Net issue.
Yep. One more thing, and guys, just let this go in one ear and out the other. I've negotiated seller concessions for my brokerage fee for almost 15 years now. I've always charged 3.5% or more for my buyer's agent services my entire career. So whether they were offering 1%, 2.5%, 3%, I was always negotiating 3.5% for myself. And I was getting it by way of seller concessions. It shows up on the settlement statement as a debit from the seller and a credit to the buyer. And then the buyer paid me on the buyer side of the settlement statement.
So going back, I got some hands up. Frank, Denise, what would you like to do? And I'm going to give you my four outcomes before the call's over. So don't leave yet. I'm going to give you the 4 outcomes. So Frank, you're at the table with Denise. Is this a buyer or seller?
Whatever she wants to be.
Oh, okay, I'll be the buyer.
Okay, here we go, minute 45.
All right. Thinking what we've been doing. Denise, now that we've covered everything, are you ready to sign, or is there a question you have for me?
So Frank, I think that everything you've said is wonderful, but I really don't understand what this is going to cost me out of my pocket if you can't get paid by the seller.
All right, well, that's a great question. And there's a couple things that come into play. First of all, what's so important about my full fee being covered?
I just don't understand the dollars and cents of it all.
All right. And if we sat down and talked about the dollars and cents and what it might cost per month if the situation came up that my fee wasn't fully covered, would that make you more comfortable?
I really think so, because I have a substantial amount of money down. I know what my mortgage payment would be with that. If I don't have anything more to come up with, and I don't know how this impacts me if I find a home that I really like.
Okay. Along those same lines, should somebody not be offering the full compensation amount, we also have the option of going back to the seller and asking for a seller concession. Thank you so much. To cover that fee. How does that sound to you?
What's a seller's concession?
Well, in the contract, we would write in dollars and cents what the difference between what they are offering and what my service fee really is.
Time. Now, I know me and Matt have done a lot of talking. Any feedback from the rest of you guys? Let me ask you this. On a complex scale, when we want to keep it low complication, high, where do you think that was on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 would be low, very, very plain. 10 would be very complex. Where do you sense that? You can hold up, just use your hand, fingers, 1 to 5. I mean, what do you all think? Just hold up your fingers and give Frank some feedback on this. Maybe you want to give him some verbal feedback. Give you guys a chance to talk a little bit. Don't see anything. So, that one bomb. But let me ask you.
I was making it complex because this is where my brain goes. And I've been in the business a long time, but I had a hiatus. And now this is my first time using scripts and role play. And when you were talking before, I was sitting here going, well, listen, if my brokerage isn't going to be able to be compensated from the seller for X amount, this is what it could cost you. And when years ago, when we talked about seller's concession, we talked about, do you want to lose the home for this amount of dollars? And then broke it down to what it could cost you monthly in a mortgage. I know I'm getting really long-winded with it, but that's where I go with it. It's like if I find you the dream home and it's a $400,000 home and they're only paying compensation of 2% and I get paid 3%, are you willing to lose the home for $4,000?
Do people sometimes, let me ask you, when buyers buy homes and the home needs a new roof, which is very common in Florida, or they have polybutylene plumbing, do they sometimes ask, hey, look, I'm going to have to go in there and I'm going to have to spend money to make the home up to code, up to stuff? Do they have to do that?
To buy the home, they don't need to do that. To buy the home.
Sorry? I mean, have you ever worked with someone that the home needs work in order to like bring it up to code or, you know, whatever? I mean, so what does a buyer do? It's all into the offer.
Ask for concessions.
Yeah. But here's the easiest thing to do, Frank, in my opinion, in this situation. Maybe it's my favorite club. Like one of my favorite clubs in the bag is 6-iron. I hit the fire out of a 6-iron. So this is my favorite club right now. Denise, have you ever bought a home before?
Yes.
Okay. You all know it. Here's it. When you gave the seller the money, who paid the fee?
I guess it came from the fact that I bought the home, the seller had the money to pay the fee.
Right, exactly. Where do they get the money?
From me, from my transaction,
So in essence, who paid the fee?
me.
So in that scenario, nothing has changed. The only thing we're doing is that basically we're disclosing up front who's paying what. And you know what? When you made the offer, you knew the seller was going to pay the fee. Now, when we make the offer and the seller's not, we take that into consideration when we make the offer. We're not going to pay the fee twice. Are y'all getting this yet?
No. The only
Denny,
place
Denny, I know what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. Sitting here listening to all this and being in a state that's had this for many, many years, the only really big change to my mind is that we have to have a piece of paper that says, hey, this is the agreed upon compensation. And when I'm meeting with a buyer, we go through things, and as we go through the contract, we get to the part about compensation. I let them know it's negotiable, and I state what my service fee is. Most of the time, they're agreeable. If they got a question, we answer it, and right on through the whole thing. It's 99% of the time, if you make it as business as usual, people have very little, if any, questions.
That's a good point, Frank. That's what we're attempting to do here is talk through this, have you see it from a different angle and simplify it, dumb it down. One more thing I'll say, I'm going to give you my 4 outcomes, okay? And Matt may have some things to close with. By the way, I'm going to bet, where is Denise? Denise, when you bought that house and the seller paid the fee, do you know what they paid the buyer's agent?
not a clue.
Well, the way the National Association of Realtors has made it now wants you to know. So it's just opening up the transaction so everybody sees where the money's going. All right. So here's, you're one of the first groups to hear this. And I'm sitting with the seller. So I'm going to sit with Matt. Matt, you're the seller. And by the way, so obviously in your listing presentation, you're going to go through your value proposition. You're going to go through, and I have it here, basically, that's not, anyway, you're going to go through the 3 things you know, which is right here. What is sold, what's active, and market trends. You may or may not have a discussion on pricing before fees. Like, for example, when I start a listing presentation, guys, I'm really creative. Matt, where would you like me to begin? What questions do you have for me? Right?
That's it. Yeah. That's the best listing presentation in the world. Hey, what questions can I answer for you about selling?
Yeah. So, all right. So then the fee may come up. And so now you can, whatever they say, I want to know your commission. You are in control. It's kind of like, I want to know what happens in the scene, the final scene of Top Gun. Well, you got to watch the movie first. So I say, okay, we will get to that. And then you kind of build your presentation. However, you kind of know what scenes they're interested in. And so I'm going to say, okay, we'll see, we go through the pricing analysis, and you know that I believe in setting expectations, not pricing. Do you have any questions based on what I've shown you here, Matt, from a positioning standpoint? Where would you like to begin with your initial price of your home? He's going
600,000.
Right. Now, if it's worth 500,000, it doesn't really matter. Tanner, you can repeat me word for word. So if we agree to go on 600,000 initially, are you ready to move forward? He will say yes or no. Let's say he says yes. By the way, if he says no, I've got more wood to chop, so I might as well go back and figure out where I have to chop. Knuckle bump. Next. Now fee will come up. Now again, and here's the good news for listing agents. I believe, Matt, on average, listing agents' commission is going to go up.
Yep.
Because you can go in, if you've been afraid to get, well, I'm not even going to go down that road. You'll figure it out. I don't want to talk about it on public like that, but I believe the great listing agents will have and you should have, a flexible. I'm hearing feedback somewhere.
Who's
So,
Luay? Luay, mute yourself, please.
thank you. So here's what, then let's say he has a now I want him to give me the objection. So we've agreed on price. I'm gonna have to bring up fee. So here's the way the fee is. My fee is X. And the decision you have now, because the National Association, well, no, I won't even say that, because they've always had this decision.
Right.
Is that, okay, what would, my fee is X. I'm gonna ask you, what level of compensation do you want me to include in the listing for the buyer's agent? Go, Matt.
Well, if we don't have to pay him, I really don't want to.
Okay. Well, because I have 3 minutes, let's say you're pretty adamant about not paying.
Yeah, I don't want to pay him.
Okay. Well, and let me give you, so I'm not gonna go through the full role play about it, but I'm gonna go through the outcomes, kind of like they do the fishing sheet on price, which is right there. All right, well, can I tell you then, if you're gonna offer a low to no fee, may I share with you the 4 probable outcomes?
Sure.
Outcome number 1, hear me on this. The buyer may have instructed the buyer's agent they don't want to see homes that offer low to no compensation. Now, it's important that you don't say the agent may not show it, because that's going to get us in trouble.
Yeah.
Do you hear me on that?
Yes, got it.
Is it possible a buyer may say, hey, if they're not offering compensation that basically based on our agreement, I don't want to see it? Is that a possibility?
Yep.
It is. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into the whys and wherefores about that yet. I'm going to go through the outcomes, just like we do in this sheet. Outcome 2 is the buyer and the buyer's agent understand you're not offering a fee. So in order for the buyer's agent not to come out of pocket, they're going to include the fee in their offer. All right, that's 2. Is that possible?
Yep.
Outcome 3 is, and they're gonna, as they strategize about how to structure an offer on this home, is that they may see that you're paying a low to no fee, and in order to cover the buyer's obligation of the fee, they're going to subtract that from their offer.
At least, okay.
And number 4, there is a possibility that your home will sell in spite of a low to no fee for one reason or the other. Now I'm going to stop for a moment. And this is a very embryonic type thing. And I don't know, I'm not married to it. What's your initial blink?
Love it. It's there's one little thing that I might add to what's the third thing you said, Denny? The third one?
Buyers and sellers will get together, and then realizing there's a shortage and they don't want to come out of pocket, they will subtract that from their offer.
I might add to you the verbiage. They may subtract that at least that number. Just like when I use in my for sale by owner presentation, what's the first thing a for sale by owner buyer does when they make an offer on your home? They offer you at least 6% less, because they're trying to save the same commission you are. So that's perfect. I love it.
Any other feedback on that? Because yes.
So my thought as a listing agent was not to disclose what we're willing or not willing to offer, and just to get an offer, because everything changes. Even if, say, my client is not willing, but 5 minutes later they're in panic mode that there's no offers. So I don't know what your take on that.
I think you have to disclose.
I don't. Submit your highest best, write up what you want, and we'll take it from there. I don't have to disclose that.
Right, but no, I understand you must, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong because I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that you must disclose whether yes, or it's like a yes or no. Are we offering compensation? Yes, we are, or no, we're not. That's my understanding.
From what Jenny said, and this was a conversation I had the other night that was very interesting. You could put it out there, and when people call, say you're not offering any compensation and then have them come back and ask what they want for compensation. And the idea there is that they may only ask for 2.5 rather than 3 or 3.5 or whatever. And therefore you could save some money on the whole deal. Just an interesting concept. I'm not sure if I buy into it completely yet or not. It's still one of those things I'm
Hang on a
dealing
minute.
with.
Tom, I want to keep you. Jenny, that's an interesting question, and Frank, that's an interesting follow-up on that. I guess my thinking is this. This is how I think. If someone's not willing to say, if you were on a game show, would you be guessing it would be a high commission or a low one?
Low.
Therefore, in at least Florida, my market, Matt's market, where inventory is at a 10-year high, if the agent is already kind of biased about it, whether it's legal or not, is it possible they may show other homes prior to showing your home because they're going to go for the sure thing versus the I don't know? Could that possibly put your seller at a disadvantage?
Yes.
That's my blink. So if you have hey, who says this? If you got it, what?
Right.
Flaunt it.
I just had the call yesterday on one in Punta Gorda. I just put it on the market. Agent called me and just said, "Hey, you paying a co-broke?" Said, "Absolutely. I want to take care of my buyer's agents to the best of my ability. We're offering a X% co-broke," and that's it. Now you could say no, they're not offering a brokerage fee, but I tell you what, Denny, put it in writing and send it over.
Wow.
Well, you got to be careful, and listen, this is my show, so it ends when I say it ends. So we can talk a few more minutes. Be very careful though that and this is going back to back when I got into real estate 40 years ago. You want to just, hey, just throw it in writing. My seller's motivated. They got to get to Miami. Listen, it's not unusual if a seller has a friend that calls and then gives that feedback back to the seller how you handled that call. So make sure you don't take that too far by puffing up the seller's motivation.
No. Yeah, look, I'm very intentional when I say it, because I always get the calls. Hey, how motivated is your seller? How motivated is so-and-so? What's important? I say, hey, tell you what, put it in writing. We'll present it to the seller. Meaning, I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying high. I'm not saying low. Say no, they're not off. That we're offering X%, or you can say no, they're not offering a brokerage fee. But I tell you what, if you put it in writing, I'll present it to the seller.
Yes, and I've always been taught very same thing, you guys. I've learned never to speak for the seller. So if your buyer has interest, just what Matt said, put it in writing, and So, did anybody get any clarity? So I always love you to share for not only me, but for other people here. What was your aha? Because someone could have been right in the middle of playing Call of Duty and they totally missed the point. So share some ahas with me.
I think making it simple, the simpler you can explain it, the better, we're better off we'll be. The commissions have been already negotiated. Sellers always done that. We just have to be transparent. I like that.
Just slow down. Yeah, we need to slow down.
So Matt, your hand up, never got to call on you. What did you want to say today? Yeah, Matt too.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I usually operate out of the saying, it's not a big deal unless you make it a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I really don't think, Texas has been doing this for a while. What I wanted to tell you is your four outcomes. This is what we get paid to do. We get paid to tell our clients, the likely outcomes of whatever it is they're looking to do, and they get to select which level of risk they would like to choose. And that's what you're doing here. You're really just presenting them, hey, this is option A, what could happen. This is also what could happen if we price it here, if we do this. where would you like to be? And they get to select it, and based on what they want to select and their level of risk, that's how they move forward. That's really all this is.
Right.
So I like it.
Yeah, so what I said before, this is a professional industry now. If you guys remember that, I said it this morning and I've said it several times. The fact is what Matt just said. We're giving them the information, trusting them with their intelligence. Do you think attorneys have conversations with their clients like this? Hey, Denny, you shot somebody in the face. You could lose this case. Okay, but we're going to fight it from this, and this, but you could lose.
Right.
A doctor, when they do surgery, hey, you've got this, and this, and you need this surgery. This surgery could kill you, but what do you want to do? It's no different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's no absolutes unless you happen to root for the Arizona Cardinal football team. I mean, they're absolutely not going to win the Super Bowl. Other than that, there are no absolutes out there, guys. So, hey, Don, love you.
That's why I'm a Patriot fan.
Yeah, all right. Can you get the 4 in writing? Yes, I'll get a slide going. Any feedback on that? I'm still kind of,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Dave.
I was just gonna say, Denny, put the rough draft in writing, and if you could have your assistant or whoever send it over to me, because I loved it. I mean, I thought we need to be presenting that in such a way. I don't even know if it really needs to be edited very much, but I'd like to see it so that I could kind of meditate on it. Okay,
David, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say that in the previous conversation about really important at listing appointment of how many buyers or what percentage of buyers do they want to reach when they're talking about what they're going to offer in compensation. I just think that's really relative in our market, because the conversation with agents when they're negotiating and we have the seller's best interest, if we're not offering co-brokes, just from local experience, there's a lot of agents that are not going to take that information right and still be able to negotiate their value.
So David is in our market. He's a major force. I'm going to say a kind of a gorilla, meaning he's got a big business. But I'm going to go back to what you said. And we have personal conversations, since we've talked about this before. What percentages are you going to use? Because don't say something that's not right.
Yeah. I would say, do you want to get to reach 100% of the buyers in the buyer's market? And the reason being, listening to this conversation, just knowing the average agent that you talk to, of course, you want to have the seller's best interest, but in the event that they find they have to fight for their commission, I think, especially with the current market of inventory, it has adverse effects on the seller selling.
Don't go, you guys. Stay until I finish this, and any comments after that. I get what he's saying. However, let me ask you a question. I'm going to the 3 outcome sheet. So if you have a listing that's overpriced and you have low to no showings, is compensation even a factor? Is it not getting showings because of compensation?
No, pricing.
No, hang on. Watch this. What if you doubled or tripled the compensation? Would it matter? All right. Let's say you get outcome 2. You're getting showings and no offers. Is compensation a factor there? No. It is not. If you doubled or tripled compensation, would it matter? It would not. So understand when there's going to be the 4 outcomes, and you may want to say, and this is what David's saying, is so you'd go back if they're still resistant and say, okay, so outcome 1 is that these buyers may not look at your home. My question is, and this, David came up with this. I think he said this. You want this to go you want to take the easy road or the harder road? And there can be, look, here's the other thing about the market. My last comment. I think a seller is better to have more than 1 buyer interested in it, correct?
Yes.
2 buyers are much better than 1, but 10 buyers aren't better than 5. At some point, the curve flattens. Mm-hmm. So if you had 2 buyers, or maybe 4, but let's say is 20 buyers better than 10? No, because there's diminishing returns. However, one thing that I think we can all agree on, 2 is better than 1. So there you go. We'll talk more about it. I'll take your advice, Matt 1, and I'll write it out. I'll get it to you. And I don't know how to send it out to you guys, but if there's a way, I'll send it to you. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. It's priceless stuff. Thank you, Denny.
Thanks, guys. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
Very good.
Bye.